Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
So today we are continuing, we are doing a witch movie, that's a supernatural horror movie, called The Craft, which was released in 1996. And it's become a cult classic to a lot of fans out there.
We thought we'd throw it in against...
Coming close to Halloween, we thought we might throw it in.
That's part of it, but we're not knowing the age of our listeners. We think, well, sometimes we go back about 20 or 30 years, and when you look at it, 1996, seems, wasn't that long ago? Guess what, folks? It's about 30 years ago. So some younger folk may not have actually seen The Craft.
And of course, there's a lot of 90s familiar actors you may be aware of that are in this one, obviously. You may recognize a few faces. I know my sister, she was the one who introduced me to this movie when we were younger. We grew up in the 90s, so we were used to seeing this type of movie around, obviously.
Yeah.
And the following actors and actresses that starred in it. Anyway, so let's dive into the directors, the writers, and the actors side to it. So let's get into that.
Here we go. Okay. Produced by Douglas Wick. Directed by Andrew Fleming. Yes, Andrew. Okay. Screenplay by Peter Filardi. Is it Filardi? Yeah. My eyesight's getting pretty bad at the moment. And Andrew Fleming. He wrote it and directed it.
You are assistant.
The original story is by Peter Filardi. Well, there you go then. Groovy stuff. Now, the actors, players, if you will. Okay. Right, now, not quite the order of appearance, I suppose, but whatever. Okay, Robin Tunney plays Sarah Bailey, a really nice girl. Now, Feruza Balk plays Nancy Downs. She's my favourite. She's a real gothic-y type, and she plays a really over-the-top gothic, and she's really cool. Neve Campbell, she showed up in quite a few of these. She plays Bonnie Harper. Rachel True plays Rochelle Zimmerman. Scoot Ulrich plays Chris Hooker. He gets his in the end.
Yeah, you may know him, but you may know both him and Campbell in the Scream franchise. Obviously.
Yeah, whatever.
Moving on.
Christine Taylor plays Laura Lizzie. Is it Brecken? Brecken Mayer Smith. And Nathaniel. My eyesight's getting really good. I use my wrong glasses at the moment. Nathaniel Marston plays Trey. There you go.
Yes.
I should put my other glass on. I might be able to see something.
Okay, so anyway, that Lauren one you mentioned, she was also in a 90s remake of the Brady Bunch, which she plays Marsha Brady, and I gotta admit, with her character in this movie, her character continues to be the total snob and obnoxious, egotistical woman. But that doesn't matter to us because she only plays a few cameos in this one. Anyway,
I wasn't quite finished. Okay, here we go. Now, interesting here. Budget, 15 mil. Now, I presume that's 15 mil back then. That's a lot of money. Box office about 55. So it did make a profit. Obviously, it made a bucketload more money on home media. So it actually paid for itself and then some. So we'll talk about reception later on. But yeah. That's about it, I think.
Yeah. Every time I think of The Craft, and I think of the Charmed ones.
Yeah, Charmed with Sandra Bullock and Buggerlugs. Yeah.
I've said this probably in the past, where whenever I think about the music in this and the music in the Charmed ones, it has some similar. I guess it's the period it's set in. It sets in the 90s, and it's very earthy, and you get the feeling of the feeling behind it, obviously, giving it that witchy vibe. I should mention, before we begin, some of the actresses, when they were studying for the roles, they actually took the time out to actually read a few witch books to get the feel of how to be a witch.
And by the way, which books did they read?
Don't bother raising that one either. But the point I'm trying to make is an actress would often stay for a role to get the feel of
Immerse
of
oneself
it.
in the role.
Yeah. Anyway, so I should mention the lady who plays Nancy. This is her second witchy-related role she has been in. When she was a little kid, her debut movie was The Worst Witch.
That's right, yeah.
Which was years ago, back in the 80s. I mean...
There's just something about her. I mean, I'm not being sexist here, but she looks good. But
Yes.
but the gothic look and the personality she's putting over with it, she's really, really, ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
To me, she's the main star.
Yeah, despite her
from
many
performance-wise,
roles in this, she made many roles after this movie, obviously. But still, I think whenever I keep jumping back and forth between different people she plays. I think that she's best in this role because her features just that give you that interesting vibe.
The dark look and the expressions on her face and the eyes and stuff. She's magical. I mean, Robin Tunney, she was the main good girl, but I'd say if you were balanced to that, you got the main good girl was Robin Tunney playing Sarah, and you got the other girl here, Fraser, playing Nancy as the main mean girl. I mean, she was really.
Yeah.
She really took me by.
Okay. So
Anyway,
do you want me to get into
irrespective.
the story now?
Yeah, cool. Go for it.
So the story begins where we see the girls, Nancy, Bonnie, and Rachel, are getting ready for their usual witchy stuff, obviously. And then we cross over to the title card, and then we meet the Sarah, who's traveling with her father and her stepmother to their new home and stuff like that for dad's work, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't say why, but obviously they're moving from San Francisco to Los Angeles. That's all. It doesn't say why. I gather for work.
Well, she says her dad wanted to, so it could be work related, like most parents do.
Who knows?
Anyway, they soon arrive there, and when she's settling in, a weird homeless guy is there who presents a snake to her, and he runs away, but thanks to her father being there, and later on she's attending school, and there she makes the acquaintance of the girls, obviously, but of course the girls are considered weirdos because Nancy is the gothic girl in the group, and there's Bonnie, who has burn scars over her body, and she has to wear lots of layers of clothing to avoid them being noticed. And Michelle is just plain on an outcast because of her race, obviously. Sorry, guys. For those views, guys, don't take offense. Anyway, so seeing as it's no stranger amongst the school that they're witches. Meaning they're pretty much not hiding this fact, obviously, in this movie. It's no secret amongst the students. Okay, so the girls are looking for a fourth because they want to summon the four corners, which means to
North, South, East, and West up here.
Yeah, and so Bonnie, who's in
Wind and fire. Yeah.
Bonnie, who's in Spanish class, French class, sees Sarah doing something interesting with a pencil. Where she's balancing on the point, which is very unusual.
Not on the eraser.
Yeah. Later on, Sarah meets with the popular boy football player, Chris, who is really interested in her, of course, and he tells her a bit about the girls, the outcast girls in her class, and told them about their history and stuff like that, which makes me beg the question how he knew about the scars, which could mean he may have had relationships with each of the girls
He may have got
behind the
himself,
scenes.
He's just sharing himself around. What a wonderful guy he is.
Yeah, anyway, he invites Sarah to watch him play in football practice, if you will.
And why wouldn't he?
She doesn't think this is it's not really her thing, but she goes anyway. And there she meets the girls, and they take her away from the football practice to talk and hang out for a bit. And of course, they take her to this store, a witch store, that's where it sells, witch stuff.
Witchy stuff, yeah.
And crystals,
Talisman,
candles, witch books. And of course, she notices that something behind a curtain, but the woman who's the owner, the proprietor, tells her this is not for you. And she notices the ring on Sarah's ring, which belonged to her late mother. Sarah's late mother died when she was giving birth to Sarah. So she kind of guessed that Sarah was, that ring belonged to her. And she gives her guidance by telling her about how she might be a natural witch, meaning her power may come from within.
Yes, doesn't need no books or spells or anything else. Yeah.
Anyway, soon after the girls are leaving and heading home, the homeless man we saw at the beginning approaches Sarah again with another snake. He has a snake at the beginning and another one, and he keeps yelling out, ranting and raving about how he had a dream about her and she was dead. And then as she's running across the road, all three girls are watching him, and
You get run over.
And we're thinking at the same time that the car will hit him, and eventually he got hit.
Yay.
And the girls feel like that they found their fourth in Sarah, obviously.
Whoopie-doo, yay.
And she tells them briefly about. They tell her about Manon.
Manon?
A ghost, not ghost, spiritual energy.
A deity, whatever.
Yeah.
They worship the Manon, M-A-N-O-N, I think it's
So you
called.
guys know, the producer, he was constructed by a religious person, advisor, when they were doing this movie. They wanted to come up with a fake deity because they didn't want
to invoke anyone real one.
They didn't want kids to go out and, contact a real demon or
like
demonic thing.
Candyman or something.
Something dangerous. Well, I'm really serious, Mike.
I was joking.
They don't want kids to think they can, invoke a real spirit that could cause real possession and demonic stuff that could be harmful to a person. Anyway, they made it up. No, again, you're getting confused. I'm going to hit you hard again. Will you stop that? This is serious.
I'm joking.
Okay?
I'm joking.
They're not playing around. It's just like if you had a Ouija board.
I don't play with those things.
You try to bring a spiritual advisor to tell you if it's safe or not. And that's why
Most people don't use them properly, do they?
Yes.
No. If you don't open and close it properly, you leave yourself open to problems.
Yes, like you, for instance.
No, well, I'm always this way. There you go. Yeah.
Anyway, she goes on. Sarah then explains to the girls that she feels that her powers are not in her. She can't handle them. She said that one time she would wish for it to rain, and then a pipe in her room would just break loose and flood her room.
What's raining?
Or if she wished for quiet, she wishes for it, and then she goes deaf 3 days. And then
Sort of works.
Nancy suggests if you could do that, maybe you can invoke the spirit, which means you could take in the spiritual entity, and it makes your whole life better again. But Sarah remarks that life doesn't get better, meaning her life is not perfect, and she thinks that no matter what spirits she might bring up, or whatever things she conjures up, won't make things magical again. Anyway, she leaves, and the girls say that they'll see her again, or at least Rachel says.
Or whatever.
Meanwhile, she meets with Chris on a date, I guess, if you can call it a date, and they get to kiss for the first time. And then he suggests they go back to his place to do a bit of you-know-what.
Oh, playing Scrabble. Oh, okay, very nice.
Of course, she said no, she wasn't ready. And then later at school the next day, or somehow the next day, we don't know, doesn't mention dates. And the girls, Bonnie, Nancy, and Raquel, tell her that Chris has been going around the entire school saying Sarah had sex with him and she was bad in bed.
Yeah, she's the worst lady's ever had. Not very nice,
She
guys.
confronts him and he refuses to talk to her, and she says something really harsh on him, and she's angry at him, obviously, for being such an idiot jerk. Anyway, we do see more of the other girls' lives. Like, we see Bonnie dealing with special experimental surgery to give her the scars.
Yeah, she was in a car accident or something when she was a bit younger, and she got all this scar tissue on her shoulder and down her arm and stuff, and one part of her back. You know, must have been burns or something. Yeah.
Anyway, the experiment didn't go so well, and she was in pain during the surgery. Obviously.
It looked really bad. I wouldn't have gone through it.
You would think they would give her an injection beforehand, like maybe an anesthesia, or even just put her out.
Yeah, I would love to be out. It's like having a colonoscopy. You really don't want to be awake for it, do you, guys?
No.
Or ladies.
We also see Rachel's life, where she's on the swim team. She's about to dive off the diving board, but a horrible girl who's racist
teases her and balks her and breaks her attention and stuff. And
yeah, breaking her concentration. And we see Nancy's life living in the trailer with her abusive father
and a drunken
mother.
Yeah.
And of course, then we get later to see the girls. They go to the woods to practice a ritual, obviously, and eventually Manon hears their ritual and sends these butterflies, which is kind of cool. Anyway, soon enough. Oh, I should mention, during the ritual, they actually wish for something. Like, Bonnie wishes to have the power to be beautiful inside as well as in, and Raquel wants to not hate those who hate her, obviously, and that includes that racist girl at school. Nancy wants to have the power of Manon, obviously, and Sarah wants the love of Chris. And
whoops.
Yes, which is a big mistake. And soon enough, their prayers do get answered in an interesting way, where Chris is starting to, obsess over Sarah in a little bit.
He certainly does.
Yeah, starts following her around like a puppy, and it's a lot of puppy love, if you will. And she continues to humiliate him wherever he goes. Obviously, then we see. Much later on, Lindsay, the girl that was being nasty to Rochelle. She loses her hair.
Nasty.
It was very funny. And
Poor
Bonnie, eventually, she was able to get her scars removed, and she's finally dressing like an ordinary teenage girl in a sexy kind of way.
Yeah.
And of course,
nice.
Nancy's spell isn't working. She wants things to be better at home and stuff like that. She doesn't like living the way she lives. And soon enough, when her stepfather, I should say, is about to attack her and her mother, she kind of causes him to lose a heart attack.
He has a heart attack. And the best part is, he's insured.
Yes, it turns out that he's in life insurance. I think they say, how much was it?
Oh, back then, $175,000. That's back in 1996. That's about $300,000 a day, $400,000. So it's not too bad.
And so both her mother and her are now living in an apartment, in a beautiful apartment, obviously.
Well, yeah.
And they also learn how to use glamour, a special trick to make your appearance look differently.
Yes.
Anyway, Sarah's beginning to realize her spell on Chris is going haywire, where she finds him outside her house one night, and he wants her to move in with him. And this is all too new because she's anyway, she's regretting this, and she soon approaches the lady, the proprietor at the magic store, and asks for advice about what to do about Chris's condition, like how she can reverse the spell. And her advice was that when you open a floodgate, how you can undo it. When you release something, you must let the spell run its course. And of course, while she's talking and the rest of the girls are browsing, she goes on to explain about how that whenever you send out, you get free folds back, obviously, which means that whatever you send out would be, you might get something bad in return, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, she describes it just like in the Bible where they say, do unto others until they're done unto you.
Well, something like that. The point is, if you're going to do something good to somebody, good will come back to you. If you're going to do evil to somebody, evil's going to come back at you. So yeah, same sort of thing. Yeah.
Nancy finds a book that mentions invoking the spirit, what she wants, and she buys it. And of course, we see the girls much later on the beach with their offerings to Manon to get his power, or Nancy getting his power, obviously. And here in the scene, we see Sarah telling Nancy about how when she was her most depressed, she would hallucinate snakes, bugs, and rodents, and when she opened her eyes, they were still there, and it was. I should mention earlier that Sarah, in the past, she nearly tried to almost came too close to taking her own life. She cut herself, with a knife and
kitchen knife, carving knife. Yeah,
and
nice.
I think that she was depressed because she is a little sad about how she thought she killed her own mother when she was born, obviously, and for a long time she feels this neglect of a mother's love. I don't know what her relationship.
Not neglect, so the absence of it, because she didn't have a mother growing up, and a stepmother's not a really good.
I don't know.
Substitute.
I don't know that much from a relationship because we don't barely even see her in the movie.
The point is, I was going to say, you've got a stepmother. The stepmother's not the same as having your mother, even though you might have a nice stepmother, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah. Anyway, she doesn't call her mother, obviously. No. She calls her Jenny. Which is like having a housekeeper when you think about it. Anyway,
well, most mothers are housekeepers, aren't they, folks?
So they begin the ritual, the calling the corners again, which somehow succeeds. And then the next morning, we see Nancy walking on water like she was Jesus or something.
Ooh,
and we see along the beach some dead sharks.
Consequences.
Yes.
There's about a dozen dead sharks washed up on a beach or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems that along the lines that Manon didn't only just take their offerings, but also killed those poor sharks. I don't know. I don't know how the ritual works.
Took some of their power and put it into Nancy. I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, later, Sarah notices the sudden change in Nancy and is starting to realize this is going haywire because it's not just her spell that's going wrong, it's everything. But the girls don't see it that way. They think that they're happy with the fact things are better for them.
Bonnie's got her good looks down. She's becoming really arrogant and really nasty. And Rochelle is becoming traumatised by seeing the other girl falling apart and losing her hair and everything.
Yeah. And refuses to actually accept the fact that what she done was wrong.
Yeah, and Sarah's having a problem because of Chris is going really mental and being a real pain in the neck.
Yeah. And when she really wanted Chris to like her, but how much we don't know. Anyway, well, we do know anyway. So, and Nancy thinks, if you want, you can just go. Do you want to leave or break the circle? Blah blah blah. And she just wants things to be, try to. She just thinks that they should stop and think for a minute.
Yes.
About what they're doing.
Just like in Jurassic Park, just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Yeah. Anyway, later on, she gets a call from. Oh wait! Before we get to that, we see Rachel in the swimmers' bathroom, obviously the toilets, and we see that the girl that she tormented with her hair spell is crying and
sitting on the floor of the shower in a cubicle, and her hair's she's almost bald, looks almost as bad as me.
It's pretty terrible, and we watch as in the mirror she's looking at her reflection, but the mirror is looking at the direction where she's looking.
The mirror's looking in the wrong direction.
Meaning,
like she's looking away from her instead of at her. Okay.
Yes, which is eerie. Anyway, soon enough, Sarah gets invited by Chris to go on a dinner date, obviously, which he picks her up and they drive to a corner and she talks about what's been going on. Well, not to the extent of telling him about the witchcraft stuff. She just says that they just turned on her and that which is not really friendship. And he listens, or I think he listens, but she starts realizing that he's not really listening and this magic is, she's just realizing that that things are not going so well. And he nearly attacks her and tries to rape her.
He certainly does.
This is what happens when you don't take responsibility for the guys you like, anyway. And even though it's not completely her fault, but this was getting out of control, and the spell is just, she should have done it more carefully, or at least not asked him to be obsessed with her. Anyway, she runs runs into the woods and goes to Rachel's house, where she tells the girls about what has occurred. Nancy, not taking this lying down, decides to head to one of the boys, probably his friend's parties, and I think it was Trey's party.
So, yeah.
And
he's going to get a bit of revenge on dear old Chris.
Yeah. She finds him and takes him upstairs, and she's about to have her way with him, but
she's trying to seduce him, and
Yes.
he doesn't want to because it's not the lady love of his life.
Yeah, and she glamours herself
To
to
look
make
like her.
Yeah, and they begin to, in his drunken state, he's drunk. After all, he's been drinking beer, and
So he thinks it's actually Sarah and not Nancy. So he starts to let down his defences a tad, doesn't he?
the real Sarah and Bonnie and Rochelle arrive, and they go inside the party, and there they encounter Lorraine, who I guess kind of says sorry about what she's been doing, and I guess she tells them where Nancy and Chris were. And soon enough, Sarah goes into the room and sees her glamour Nancy and Chris together, and of course Chris sees that it's Nancy. He was making out, and he calls her a witch.
Yeah, very astute observation here. Yeah.
Realizing, I think that all this time he mocked them being witches, but didn't really believe they were witches. And Nancy lets slip that Sarah is an actual witch too, and the reason he is infatuated with her is the fact that she's put a spell on him, obviously.
I'll put a spell on you.
Yeah, that'd be right.
Sorry.
Anyway, of course he denies this, and he tells Nancy that you're just jealous, and she says that you don't exist to me, and all the time you treat women like whores, according to her. And she takes her anger and on him. He tries to say I'm sorry, but she doesn't take it rightly.
Sorry seems to be the hardest word.
Yeah, right. For Nancy, it was not going to cut it. So she opens the window with her power and knocks Chris out the window. And he falls and he dies on impact. And later on, Sarah's at home, and her father is trying to comfort her. He tells her, according to the police, I guess they think it was an accident. But Sarah doesn't see it that way. She knows both that Nancy killed Chris, and she feels totally responsible. And she decides to create a new spell where she binds Nancy's power, to avoid any more harm to other people.
Or herself.
Yes. Harm against other people and harm against herself. And anyway, soon enough later that night, she gets a nightmare where she sees Nancy and Bonnie and Rachel tormenting her and sending...
And the house full of snakes and rats.
No, that comes later on.
Sorry.
Anyway, she goes into... she's at school later on, and the girls are there tormenting her and telling her that if she leaves the school, she leaves the coven, she'll have to leave the school, the town, and everything, because if a witch betrays her coven, they will kill her. which means that Sarah is a dead girl walking at this point in time. And the girls, Bonnie, Rochelle, they don't want to side with Sarah because they only see, they don't even want to side with her at this point, even after everything they've gone through. Anyway, Anyway, she runs to the magic store, and even though she doesn't know the proprietor very long, she tells her what's been happening, and telling her that the other girls, the other witches, they're using magic against her. And she tried a binding, it didn't work, and she feels like that Nancy is inside her thoughts and her dreams, and she can't be rid of them. Of course, this lady offers her a shoulder to cry on and shows her the hidden room that's in the back of the store, which turns out to be a temple that was sacred to the holy power.
Nice pentagram on the ground and everything. Yeah,
and she goes on to explain that Sarah's late mother was a witch too, and that she tells her through the ring that she must be strong, and she tells her that in order for her to defeat the people that are harming her, she must surrender herself to the high power. She must invoke the spirit.
Exactly.
But of course, to Sarah, she thinks this only makes Nancy crazy. But according to her, that the reason that is because Nancy took it to a dark place inside her. Whereas Sarah it's her own salvation.
White light and stuff, yeah.
So as they're about to chant the special incantation, the girls somehow appear. Well, not really they appear. They kind of close the glamour around the store, making it explode, but it didn't explode, obviously. Realizing that she's in danger, Sarah quickly abandons the magic store and tries to make it home. And when she gets there, her mom and Jenny aren't there. I mean, her dad and Jenny are not there, obviously.
No.
And then she gets a call from Nancy, no wonder, who tells her that her dad and Jenny had gone back to San Francisco.
And died in a plane accident, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Later on.
That was fake,
so,
actually.
As this happens, the lights go out, and suddenly snakes and bugs and rodents start appearing all over the house, creating a barricade for her not to escape. She ends up running upstairs and tries to hide in the bathroom to avoid them. Of course, soon enough, Nancy appears, and she tells her that I would have died ages ago. You should get on it with it. Then she heads back downstairs.
Well, all snakes and spiders disappear.
Snakes and rodents and spiders have disappeared. She confronts the girls and asks where her father and mother were, and her stepmother were, and they say that she'll be soon joining them. Of course, Nancy says, "You are going to kill yourself, my dear." And
your little dong too.
And she goes on to explain. Sarah says, "No, I'm not going to die," but the girls start levitating and tell her that Nancy mocks her and says that you killed Chris and you killed your mum, and mocks her about how her mother's death, obviously, causing Sarah to weep and cry over the fact and trying to fight the fear and sadness that's entering her heart, obviously. And the girls continue chanting and Nancy drops a note that's written in Sarah's hand saying, "I killed Chris," a suicide note, if you will. And then she cuts Sarah's wrists, that would mean that she might end up dying, and it would look like a suicide attempt, or a complete suicide attempt.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sarah goes upstairs and she quickly grabs some tissue paper to try to stop the bleeding. Of course, she begins crying and she falls on the floor.
Getting a bit weak from loss of blood.
Looking at her mother's picture. Of course, Nancy sends her two minions upstairs. Actually frets them to go upstairs, I should say, because she tells them that if they don't go up there, she'll slit their throats with that knife.
What a good leader.
Yeah. The other girls, they're starting to think this is going too far, obviously. But anyway, they go upstairs, And Sarah begins to chant, and of course she begins to chant with the powers of 3 times 3. Let them see, and they see in a mirror that of them where Rochelle looks like she's bald as her girl, that girl she tormented, and we see Bonnie who has scars on her face
and all over and looks really bad.
And the girls are starting to realize what they've done. The girls flee, and we watch as Sarah continues chanting, invoking the spirit, and we see in a photo of her mother, her late mother,
it starts come to life,
and telling her to concentrate and to reach the power within herself.
And the cut on her wrist starts to disappear.
Yeah. She eventually evokes the spirits, and then Nancy starts ascending up the stairs and coming into Sarah's room. Of course, Sarah's not in there, but we see that Sarah's inside a mirror, and she appears, and she tells in a confident way to Nancy that Mana appeared to her and saved her, and told her a message to convey it to Nancy that thanks to her abuse of power, of his power, she'll have to pay a horrible price for what she done.
Exactly.
So she starts doing the same thing that Nancy did to her by making it look like bugs and snakes appearing all over.
Coming out of her clothes, but cockroach coming out of her sleeves and
starting resembling a Medusa character, which is very creepy.
Yeah, snake fingers and snake hair, and really good.
It was very good. And of course, she gets freaked out, but then they eventually vanish. And of course, Sarah's like, relax, it's only magic, in a mocking way. And soon enough, Nancy says that she's sorry, that she'll promise that she will not, doing nasty more things to her. Of course,
too late. As
she's about to leave, Sarah starts the binding, witch thing, which it says, I bind you, Nancy, for doing harm against people. Nancy didn't want to be bound. But eventually she raises the knife and tries to attack Sarah, and here the drawers come swinging.
Yeah, just the drawers?
Comes sailing across the room and nearly crushes Sarah. We then watch as Nancy tries to pry away the objects.
Find the body, and there's no body there.
We do see the remaining clothing and eventually as she's about to stab it, Sarah appears and kicks Nancy in the chest, and she moves down to the other end of the room and crashes into a mirror.
Shatter.
Then she continues the binding ritual, binding Nancy's power and stuff like that. Then we cross over to the next morning where we see that Sarah's father is alive, and that it turns out it was all a glamour joke, according to Michelle and Bonnie. The Bonnie and Rochelle, they arrived there to explain things.
And say sorry.
And in the most weird way. And they tell her that it was all the whole thing with the with her parents being absent was the fact it was just the glamour, obviously. And she and they ask her whether she still has her magic powers, because they don't.
Yeah, they've lost the power.
Yeah.
Funny that,
I think that she may have bound their magic
I think they did too.
Off screen. And of course they say, would you like to still hang out, chant, call the corners? And she says, hold your breath until I call, obviously. And no doubt, not really. And the girls mock her behind her back, saying she doesn't have her powers anyway. But then we see that Sarah has maintained her powers, and she nearly knocks them over by knocking out a tree branch.
Yeah, with lightning and stuff. Not bad, very dramatic, yes.
She then tells them that to be careful, or they'll be like Nancy. And we see much later Nancy in the nut house where she's given her sedative and she's crying out.
She's totally lost it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Then we fade out and the credits roll. The end.
Yay.
I mean, we also get a sequel which comes, 20 or 25 years later, I think.
It was actually done in 2020, so about 24 years later. Works out pretty good for the storyline too.
Agreed. So that would be very well received. Anyway,
Anyway,
I do think that I do think it's this movie is an awesome movie. Obviously, I'll touch on to the sequel here. The sequel to me comes off as a little different from this one. Obviously, it comes off as a little bit more comedy, fantasy, dark fantasy.
Well,
and less horror. I don't think. Well, there is a bit of horror in it, but not too much.
It's horror, but it's not. It's not as dynamic as the first movie. How's that?
Yeah.
Now there is a problem with. I haven't got good. We're not going to talk about it. We can review this probably next time.
We'll review
but
next time.
The budget for the first movie was 15 million, and it made about 55 million at the box office.
Right.
Right. The second movie was done about 24 years later. Cost 18 million and made 2.3 odd, about 2 million at the box office. But it says here it went straight to video, so maybe it had a very, 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 very short run, like a week or two, just to test it out before it went into home media. So I don't know what it's actually if it's making money. I think it is.
I think it went to Netflix too.
Or whatever.
I don't. Well, maybe Netflix or.
Well, Blumhouse, Fred Wagon. Let's have a look here. Just going through my notes. Just talk amongst yourselves.
Well, Blumhouse is just the production
studio. Award, blah blah blah. I got lots of copious notes here.
Yeah.
They were thinking of doing another one too, but really, Sarah, released on video on demand by Sunny Pictures in October 2020. So that was October. And the release date was October, so it must have had a very, very, very skinny release,
Yeah, but as we said before, we're not going to review that one today.
No.
We're just touching onto it.
Yeah, but I did have a good follow-up. Didn't do the same story. It's not actually a reboot per se. It's sort of like, it's like Psycho 2 was 20 years later after he got out of Nut House. Well, it's the same sort of thing, but 24 years later, things have changed, and a different set of circumstances, different people. So
and different villains and different baddie guys.
Yeah, it's that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and like in
which
the
we will hopefully review. Get to next time.
Yeah, I do think that this first one it's much more a serious take on.
I like it.
On magic and stuff like that, and of course, it's like what I've always said, guys, about magic itself. You always need to, always have to consider the boundaries and the dangers.
Cause and effect.
And how if you do something really bad, you may have to expect something bad and happen in return.
Come back and bite you in the bum. How's that? Yeah.
In Nancy's case, it kind of really.
She went crackers.
Yeah, and
big time.
And the other girls, they were. I don't know. I do wonder to myself whether.
I don't think anything happened to them.
Yeah, whether the Bonnie ever got her scars back, or per se.
I think the spells didn't reverse, but either Sarah or Manon might have taken the powers away, or Sarah was able to bind them. Okay, but whatever, I don't think they undid the spells. The healing spell on Bonnie didn't undo itself.
Yeah.
And I don't think Rochelle's being picked on by the white girls at school anymore. So and Sarah, and Paul didn't have any new love interest because she's dead. So she didn't have any problems. Now, okay, where do you go? Let's rate this one. Yeah. I like the storyline.
I agree too.
I like the filming, the special effects. What they aren't too bad. It kept me on my seat most of the time following the storyline. I said, "Oh, what's happening next? Oh, that's interesting." So I like those sort of films where it just keeps you. Oh, okay, I'm interested here. I won't go for coffee just yet. I'm going to give it a 9.
I give it for I'm just thinking now. I think I give it a 10 out of 10 myself because it does. I don't see anything wrong with this one so much when I think about it. It managed to keep me on the edge of my seat, and
it's good. You like that, and it's become a cult movie as well. A lot of people like still watching it.
Yeah, some person mentioned online when I was talking about the the binding thing, when it comes to binding someone's magic, and how much later on someone else inherits the magic from her years later. I think, in my opinion, is that while Nancy cannot use her magic, does not mean for a bloodline someone else might inherit her magic.
If it's in the blood, and if it's in the DNA, whatever, the gene pool, maybe transferable to your offspring.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why.
And that's the premise of the next film. We won't go into it now.
Yeah.
Talk about it next time. But anyway,
I do think that Nancy and the others, if she did do a binding magic spell, it doesn't mean that magic's gone. It means that
they just can't use it.
They can't use it. It's like when you put a movie on standby or pause it, or just pretty much you just are just doing something on a program that will allow you to still maintain something in a folder, but at the same time you can't use it. Is that right?
Something like that.
Well, it's just my opinion. You don't really...
Well, it's stuck in response like a computer. The little wheel goes around and around and around.
Yes, meaning it's still there, but you can't use it.
Yeah. Now, here, where do you get it, folks? I'm glad you asked. eBay, they asked for sale, new and used. Now, having said that, Amazon has it for rent and for sale as well. And furthermore, you can get dual packs and triple packs and quadruple packs.
Oh, goody.
You can get the Craft 1 and 2. I saw one of the Craft 1 and 2 and also other movies. What's the one you mentioned before?
Practical Magic.
Yeah, Practical Magic, and another movie thrown in. So yeah, they've got some like movies put together, but you can get dual packs. Sometimes they're a bit cheaper than buying the two films, two movies.
Yeah.
Now this one being an oldie, I keep warning people, and you go hunting for product. It's it's back in the VHS days as well. So when you're looking for something on eBay, Amazon, or some other place, make sure you don't pick up VHS or a Laserdisc accidentally.
That reminds me, what did the reviewers say about this movie?
I forgot. I jumped into it. Oh, I was having a wonderful time here.
Yeah, did they like it or did they hate the thing?
Yeah, all the above.
Or all the above?
All the above. Okay, right.
There's a big question on my plate.
Well, mixed reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, about 57%. Okay, blah, 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 blah. It says the craft's campy imagery often overrides the feminist message in the film. I'll get over it, feminist. Get over it. A guy probably wrote it. Emmanuel Levy from Variety described it as a neatly crafted film that begins promisingly as a black comedy a la Heathers. I haven't seen the Heathers, so but gradually succumbs to its tricky machinery of special effects. Well, special effects. Well, I'm gonna do a spell. Oh, whoopee do! Pull a rabbit out of a freaking hat. Of course, you're gonna have some bloody nice special effects. Roger Ebert felt the film was mired in excessive special effects. It's a magical movie. A magical movie without special effects, and might as well, okay, here's a deck of cards, pick one, don't tell me what it is. Yeah, no, you're going to have special effects in a magic movie. Mr. Abbott, you're wrong.
It seems like this guy has a habit of even
some people say things which are totally ridiculous. Mick LaSalle from San Francisco Chronicle, he praised it before. Praise the performance of the actors.
Goody.
Stephen Holden, New York Times, echoed other reviews praising the first half of the film as a celebration of adolescent non-conformity and female independence. Now, female independence is good. I like that.
That's a good way of putting it.
They criticised the last half as heavily-handed sermon about karma with garish special effects. Well, karma turns around, bites you in the bum. Yeah, you send out bad stuff, going to come back at you.
Yeah.
And special effects, that's what magic's all about.
Yeah, it's not going to be always a Harry Potter movie, guys.
I got my magic wand here, Ron. Oh, really good.
You know, it's not going to be like that, is it?
Magic
No.
is, there's going to be always going to be a catch.
Yeah.
As I always say.
Anyway, sequel. Obviously, we're going to do that later. Can't see anything else I want to talk about, really.
I can't believe that almost a lot of these critiquers have it as not the sandwich approach, but more the negative.
No, the point is, if you're going to
approach.
have, okay, if you're going to do a supernatural horror or a sci-fi, you are going to expect a good amount of special effects to carry the story. Gone are the days of, oh, the wind came up, oh, look, there's thunder and lightning, and nothing else happened. No, the people want to see something happening, so you're going to have some special effects in there, whether you like it or not. And if it doesn't take away from the story, but adds to it, I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
So people comment, oh, there's lots of special effects. Well, duh.
Yeah. What else
Hello?
would you have at a witch story?
A witch story? What do you expect? It's not a garden party. Anyway, irrespective, that's it for me. I'm not going to say anything more. I'll just waffle on and waffle on.
It just seems ridiculous when they say they just don't see the full.
They don't see it for what it really is. It's a tool to carry the movie. It's storytelling.
If it was a CGI job, I would say nasty things about it, but no.
No, CGI and AI are tools. As long as they don't take over, as long as they are taken into hand by a creative person to create something, but not let the CGI or the AI take over.
Yeah. And I thought I liked most of their interesting magic bits, like the glamour, the levitation.
That was cute.
And let me see, what was the like the butterflies? Where it probably was real butterflies in the midst. Obviously, they would not. Sometimes they would fake stuff like that, but it doesn't look really fake when I look at those butterflies.
Well, no, they could have been
maybe they would.
Could have been layered.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting. And
anyway,
I have no issue with it.
Do you want to wrap it now? So we don't get all butterflies now.
The whole I loved when they did the invoking spirits. It was very atmospheric and creepy and cringeworthy, which adds to the whole flavour to.
I must admit,
Creepy
if I was
Witch.
going to do I do have a plan to do a supernatural horror movie myself one day, which involves invoking a demon. And I hope to make mine a bit more sinister and darker. But yeah, this is what it is, a teen, girly, feminist, if you want to call it, movie type thing. But everyone didn't want to make it too dark.
Yeah. I mean, every time I often see movies like this where the girls come off as a bit earthy, and while the rest of the other girls at school come off as very ordinary and bland. You know? Like they wear fancy dresses while the other girls wear something a little bit more cool stuff.
Tell you what though,
out of those two types of girls, I would choose the ones that are dressed in the outcast stuff.
The fringe dwellers. And actually, having said that, if I was a young guy going to school with those girls, I would have gone for Nancy in a moment. Yeah, and she's just my type of weird person.
Yeah, and the others are not too bad.
I thought they were nice girls, but I like gothic. And she just came over so good.
Yeah. Anyway, and I like that line that Nancy says to the bus driver, the famous line that has everyone talking about.
Watch out for the freaks out here. No, we are the freaks or something.
No, she says, look out for all the weirdos out there.
Weirdos.
And she says, we are the widows, mister. And they all smile at him really funnily. And he just drives off with rolling his eyes.
Sunset. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's The Craft. So we'll do the next one next time on this channel, obviously.
Yeah.
In fact, for the people who are still celebrating Halloween, obviously.
We're getting close to Halloween now.
Yeah,
we're doing it a few weeks ahead, so I think it was a week before Halloween, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a couple weeks before Halloween, so I want to make sure we got plenty in this, especially if it's supernatural magical stuff that gets your Halloween juices flowing. Which is, I always think, nothing says Halloween than a creepy witch story.
Peanuts, they did the Halloween special, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. great pumpkin.
The great pumpkin, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of pumpkins, we
the
used
Linus?
to.
Is it?
Yeah.
The Linus, yeah.
Speaking of pumpkins, we usually have a bunch of pumpkins at our shops, but we don't seem to have them
those
at the
big orange
moment.
pumpkins. Yeah, we have a bit of a shortage of them this year.
Yeah, this year, last year and the year before that, we had a very big selection of pumpkins for Halloween.
Maybe a lot of people aren't possibly buying them, so they didn't get them in.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That could
So
be it.
we don't celebrate like Americans do and make up the jack-o'-lanterns and stuff.
I did it one time just for fun, just to see what the fuss is about and whether it's difficult to actually carve a pumpkin. Turned out it was very easy. And of course,
but the bigger the pumpkin, the easier it is too, because you get those big grandma pumpkins, those big orange ones. They're really sizable, and you cut the top off and scoop all the seeds out. And you can get your carving knife through there quite easily, or a hunting knife, whatever you're going to use. Yeah, or your tooling knife, or
It turns out very, very easy. All you have to do is, I used to thought while carving a pumpkin that I used to think that it would be difficult breaking it open to get the bits out. But it turns out the inside is very hollow.
It is, yeah. The middle of it's just full of seeds. Actually, you can make pumpkin alcohol. You take the top off, like the jack-o'-lantern. You scoop all the seeds out, and you fill it full of sugar. Then you put a 4-inch nail up the guts of down the bottom there. Put it over a tin can or something, rather than put the lid back on, and let the sugar do its trick with the pumpkin, and you make alcohol out of it. Kiddies, do not do this at home, okay?
Yeah, well, sadly enough, if we're not getting pumpkins this year, then there's no point whatsoever.
Oh, damn it. I can't make a pumpkin alcohol thing.
Yeah, of course there's always the plastic jack-o'-lantern thingy.
Well, yeah, the ones you get in the toy shops, the novelty shops and whatever. And,
but they're not the same thing, obviously.
Nah.
It doesn't give that
And they got an LED light inside. It's not quite the same thing as having a little kerosene lantern or a candle inside, is it? Nah.
All right, that's about it from us, guys. Enough
Good,
Halloween
guys.
stuff.
It's getting close to that witching hour. Yeah.
So that's about it from us, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and we'll see you guys for our next one, which is the Craft Legacy. Which is the one that takes place
about 20 odd years later.
20 odd years later.
It works well.
Yes. Anyway, that's it from us, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. So this is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Thanks to you guys around on Boys and Ghouls Film Review. Bye for now, and I'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.